רחמך ועל עזבון חסדך ואל תיטשנו אדוני אלוהינו לנצח. על כן איברים שפילגת בנו ורוח הנשמה שנפחת באפינו ולשון אשר שמת בפינו הן הם יודו ויברכו וישבחו ויפארו וירוממו ויריצו ויקדישו וימליכו את שמך מלכנו כי כל פה לך יודע all every mouth shall pray acknowledge you וכל לשון לך תשבע and every tongue swear loyalty וכל ברך לך תכרע and every knee shall bend or say וכל קומה לפניך תשתחווה and every body shall prostrate itself וכל לבבות יראוך and all our hearts shall be in awe וכל קרב וכליות יזמרו לשמך כדבר שכתוב כל עצמותיי תאמרנה אדוני מי כמוך להציל אני מחזק ממנו ואני ואביון מגוזלו מי ידמה לך ומי ישווה לך ומי יערוך לך האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון קונה שמיים וארץ נהללך ונשבחך ונפארך ונברך את שם קודשך כאמור לדוד ברכי נפשי את אדוני וכל קרבי את שם קודשו page 147 האל בתעצומות עוזך הגדול בכבוד שמך הגיבור לנצח והנורא בנורותיך המלך היושב על כיסא רם ונישא. Shabbat shalom everyone. Norma I believe is taking over now by phone. We won't see her.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Yisha koach.
Thank you. Ruchati.
Yes, Yasha koach.
Thank you. Is Norma, are you there? Norma?
Asked her,
She's muted.
I've asked her to unmute, which is the most I can do. I can't unmute her myself.
Okay.
Maybe she was thinking there would be a few minutes later.
I'm zooming through this, so to speak.
Yeah.
So let's wait until
she was here. She was here earlier.
Oh, I know she's
here. She was here.
Yep,
but
she's here.
Now she's gone.
Doing this through her phone rather than on the.
Now she's going to phone.
Okay. Are you texting her or something? Good. Anyway, we're 6 minutes ahead of schedule, so or 4 according to the iPad. So I guess we're okay. We can schmooze even till we hear from Norma.
We can schmooze, yes.
So Jim, I don't think that link worked to get Moxors, at least not on my.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to that. It's weird. It works on my computer, but it's my own thing.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes,
we can.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, I don't. Anyway, yeah, I'm here, and Shabbat Shalom. And I'm afraid I'm going to have to leave after Shacharit. I have a grandchild's appropriately distanced birthday party to go to, so I'll wish you all Shabbat Shalom in advance. Okay, we're starting on page 147 with Shacharit. Shochein ad marom v'kadosh shemo v'chatuv rananu tzadikim baranai laisharim nava tehillah b'fi yesharim tithalal uvdivrei tzadikim titbarach uvilshon chasidim titramam uv'kerev kadoshim titkadash Uv'makalot rivavot amcha beit Yisrael b'rinai parashim chamalkenu b'chol dor v'dor shechen chalak kol hayatzurim lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu lehodot lehalel l'shabech l'fa'er l'ramam l'hadir l'varech l'alel kales I'll call divrei shirot v'tishbachot David ben Yishai Avdecha Meshichecha. Continue on page 148. Yishtabach Shimcha La'ad Malkeinu Ha'el HaMelech HaGadol VaHaKadosh B'Shamayim UvBa'aretz Ki Lecha Na'eh Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Shiru Shvacha Halel v'Zimra Ozu Memshala Netzach Gedula Gvura Tehillah v'tiferet kedusha u'malchut brachot v'hodaot me'ata v'ad olam Baruch atah Adonai El melech gadol batishbachot El hahodaot Adon haniflaot Habocher b'shirei zimra Melech elchei ha'olamim. Please stand for Kaddish. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah b'yalma divrach yiratei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yamechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael b'agala u'v'zman kori v'imru amen. Yesh shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'omeil maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitramam v'yitnasei Yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalo shemei d'kudusho barichu La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran b'alma v'imru amen. Please stand for Baruchu on page 149. Baruchu et Adonai ha'mevorach.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach le'olam v'ed.
Baruch Adonai ha'mevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam yotzer or uvorei choshech oseh shalom uvorei et hakol hakol yoducha v'hakol yishabchucha hakol yomru ein kadosh b'Adonai hakol yoromu v'chasela yotzer hakol ha'el hapotech b'chol yom daltot sharei mizrach uvokeach halonei rakiach Motzi Chama Mimkoma, Ulevana Mimkom Shipta, Umeir La'alam Kulo, Uyoshim Shabara B'midat Rachamim, Hameir La'oretz V'ladarim Aleinu B'rachamim, Uv'tevo Mechadesh B'chol Yom Tamid Maseh Bereshit, HaMelech Hamromam Levado, Me'az, HaMeshubach, HaMefa'ar V'hemit Naseh Miyamot Olam, Elohei Olam B'rachamecha Harabim Rachem Aleinu, Adon Uzenu Tzur Miskabenu Magen Yishenu Miskav Ba'adenu En Kirkacha V'en Zulatecha Efes Biltecha Umidom Elach En Kirkacha V'en Zulatecha Efes Biltecha Umidom Elach En Kirkacha Ba'olam Hazeh V'en Zulatecha L'chayei Olam Haba Efes biltecha limot hamashiach v'yein domeh lecha litchiat hametim el Adon al kol hamasim baruch umvorach b'fi kol nishama gadlo v'tuvo male olam da'at u'tvuna sova v'imoto Hamid Ga'el Hayot HaKodesh V'nedar B'chavot Al HaMerchava Zechut Umishor Lifnei Kiso Chesed V'rachamim Lifnei Kavodo Tovim Ma'orot Shabara Eloheinu Yitzaram B'da'at B'vina Uv'haskel Koach U'gvura Natan Bahem Lihyot Moshlim B'kerev Tevel Maleim Ziv Umafikim Noga Na'ezivam B'chol ha'olam Semechim B'tzeitam V'sasim B'voam Osim B'eima Ritzon Konam Pe'er V'chavod Notnim Lishmot Zahala Verina L'zecher Malchuto Kara L'shemesh Vayizrach Ora V'hitkin Surat Halvana Shevach Notnim Lo Kol Tzeva Maharam Tiferet Ugedula Serafim Miofanim V'chayot HaKodesh Lai 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 Page 152 La'el Esher Shavat Mikol Hamasim B'yom HaShvi'i Hitala V'yashav al Kiso Kvodo Tiferet Ata L'yom Menucha U'nekaro L'yom HaShabbat Zeshevach Shel Yom HaShvi'i שבו שבת אל מכל מלאכתו, והיום השביעי משבח ואומר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, לפיכך יפארו ויברכו לאל, כל יצוריו, שבח יקור גדולה, יתנו לאל מלך יוצר כל, המנחיל מנוחה, ויעמו ישראל בקדושתו, ביום שבת קודש, שמך אדוני אלוהינו יתקדש, וזכרך מלכנו יתפאר, בשמיים מעל ועל הארץ מתחת. Page 153. תתברך צורנו מלכנו וגואלנו, ברי קדושים ישתבח שמך מלכנו, יוצר משרתים וישר משרתיו כולם, עומדים ברומלם ומשמיעים בירח, יחד בכל דברי אלוהים חיים ומלך עולם. כולם אהובים, כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים, וכולם עושים בהמה וביראה רצון קונם, וכולם פותחים את פיהם בקדושה ובטהרה, בשירה ובזמרה, ומברכים ומשבחים ומפארים ומעריצים, ומקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, קדוש הוא, וכולם מקבלים עליהם עול מלכות שמיים זה מזה, וכולם מקבלים עליהם עול מלכות שמיים זה מזה, וכולם מקבלים עליהם עול מלכות שמיים זה מזה, וכולם מקבלים עליהם עול מלכות שמיים זה מזה. ונותנים רשות זה לזה, להקדיש ליוצרם בנחת רוח, בשפה ברורה ובנעימה קדושה, כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. והאופנים וחיות הקודש, ברעש גדול מתנסים לעומת שרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. לאל ברוך נמו איתנו, למלך אל חי וקיים זמירות יאמרו, ותשבחות ישמיעו, כי הוא לבדו פועל גבורות, עושה חדשות, בעל מלחמות, זורע צדקות, מצמיח ישועות, בורא רפואות, נורא תהילות אדון הנפלאות. המחדש בטובו בכל יום תמיד, מעשה בראשית. כאמור ליוסי אורים גדולים, כי לעולם חסדו. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני, יוצר המאורות. Page 154. אהבה רבה אהבתנו, אדוני אלוהינו, חמלה גדולה ותרח עמלת עלינו. אהבינו מלכנו בעבור אבותינו ואמותינו, שבטחו בך, אבינו מלכנו. ותלמדם חוקי חיים, כן תכוננו ותלמדנו, אבינו האב הרחמן, המרחם רחם עלינו, ותן בליבנו להבין, להשכיל, לשמוע, ללמוד וללמד, לשמור ולעשות, ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה. והאר עינינו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבנו לאהבה ויראה את שמך. והאר עינינו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבנו לאהבה ויראה את שמך. ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו, נגילה Nagi la v'nismecha b'yeshuatecha. V'havienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot haaretz v'tolichenu komemiyut liartenu ki elpo Yeshuot ata uvanu v'charta mikolam delashon v'keiravtanu l'shimcha hagadol L'shimcha hagadol sela be'emet lahodot lecha uliyachedcha bi'ahava Baruch atah Adonai habocher be'amo Yisrael bi'ahava Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha v'chol nafscha v'chol miyadecha v'chayu advarim ha'el asher anachta mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinhantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shipcha v'veitecha v'laftecha b'deres v'shachvacha uvekumecha v'shartam la'ot hayadecha v'hayu l'totafot b'einecha v'tabtam al mizut beitecha uv'yishi'arecha v'yoyim shemoa tishmuha Anochi mitzavchem hayom la'ahavot Adonai Elohechem li'avdo b'chol levavchem b'chol nafshechem v'natati v'taratzchem v'ito yorah malkosh v'avta ganecha v'siroshcha v'yisharecha v'natati esed b'sodcha u'temtecha v'yachalta v'savata hishamru lachem pen yifta levavchem v'safarta v'atem Elohim achirim v'yishtachavitem lachem v'charav v'Adonai b'chem lo v'tzart shamayim v'lo yihya matar V'adamalo titenet zivulavi abadtem mehirami al ha'aretz l'tavor asher Adonai natan lachem. V'samechem et tavarai eila alavatchem v'al nafshechem v'b'shar tiyatam v'ot ayadchem. V'hayu l'totafot b'neinechem v'limadtem l'tam et b'nechem v'lidaber bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha v'laftecha b'derech v'shachvacha uv'kumecha v'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha v'bisharecha. L'man yirbu yemechem v'yemei b'nechem al ha'adama asher nishba Adonai lavoteichem latet lachem ki yemei hashamayim al ha'aretz v'yomru Adonai al Moshe lemor daber al b'nei Yisrael v'yamarta aleihem v'yasu lachem l'tzitzit al kanzei b'deihem l'doratam v'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf b'til techelet v'yaya lachem tzitzit uritem latam v'zchartem et kol mitzvot Adonai v'yasitem Atem lo taturu acharei levavchem be'acharei einechem asher atem zonim achareichem. L'man tiskuru v'yasitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kadoshim le'elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihyot lachem le'elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem emet. Adonai Elohechem emet. V'yatziv v'nachon v'kayam yasher ne'amam v'yahu v'chaviv v'nechmad. Na'im v'norah v'yadir mitzkana mikaval v'tov v'yafeh ha'davar hazeh aleinu v'al eretz. Continue on page 157. Emet Elohei olam alkeinu tzur Yaakov magen yishenu. Lidor vador hu kayam ushmo kayam v'chiso nachon u'malchuto v'yamunato la'ad kayamet. Devarav Chaim B'Kayamim, Elim Nechmadim, La'ado Lamei Lamim, Al Avotenu V'Yimotenu V'Yolenu, Al Banenu V'Al Doratenu V'Al Kol Dorat Zera Yisrael Avadecha, Al Harishanim V'Al Achronim, Davar Tov V'Kayam Le'olam Va'ed, Emet V'Yamunacho Kuli Avor, Emet Shatohu Adonai Eloheinu V'Elohei Avotenu V'Yimotenu, Malkeinu Melech Avotenu V'Yimotenu, Go aleinu go'el avotenu v'imotenu yotzreinu tzur yeshuatenu podenu umatzilenu me'olam shemecha ein Elohim zulatecha ezrat avotenu v'imotenu atahu me'olam magenu Moshiach libnechem achareihem b'chol dor v'dor barum olam b'shavecha mishpatecha v'tzidkacha al afsei eretz ashrei ish sheyishma limitzpatecha v'toratcha udvarcha yasima libo Emet atahu adon liyamecha umelech gibor lariv ribam. Emet atahu rishon. Emet atahu acharon. Umi baladecha ein lanu melech goel u'moshiach. Umibaladecha ein lanu melech, melech goel umoshiach. We'll continue on 158. Mimitzrayim ga'altanu Adonai Eloheinu mi beit avadim peditanu v'kol bocharechem haragta v'chorcho ga'alta v'yamsuf bakata v'zedim dibata v'yedim he'avarta v'echasu mayim sarehem echad mehem lo notar al zot shivchu ahuvim roma mu'el v'natnu yedidim zemirot shivot v'tishbachot brachot v'hodaot me'ata v'yod olam Ram v'nisa gadol v'nora mashpil geim umagbiya shefalim motzi asirim ufoda anavim v'ozer dalim v'onel yamo bi'et shavam elav tehilot le'el elyon Baruch hu u'mevorach Moshe u'Miriam u'vnei Yisrael Moshe u'Miriam u'vnei Yisrael lecha anu shira B'simcha rabba v'amru kulam Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh Nora tehilot O Sefer Shira Chadasha Shivchu Geulim L'Shimcha Sfatayam Yachad Kulam Hodu V'Himlichu V'Yamru Adonai Yimloch Li'olam Va'ed Tzur Yisrael Kuma Be'ezrat Yisrael Ufnei Kinumecha Yehuda V'Yisrael Go Aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo Kadosh Yisrael Baruch Ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. The Amidah is on page 159. Please rise as you are able. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Ve'Elohei Avotenu Ve'imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Goel Livnei V'Nehem, L'man Shemo B'Ahava. Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen Baruch Ata Adonai Magen Abraham Ufoked Sarah Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechaye Metim Ata Rav Lahoshia Morid Hatal Mechakel Chayim Bechesed Mechaye Metim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim Umatir Asurim, Umekayim Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Baal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, B'ne'eman Ata Lahachayot Metim, Baruch Ata Adonai. Mechaye hametim.
Shishim olam kashem shema kishimu to bismei marom. Katuv al yad neviach v'karazeh. Yosef yamar.
V'kadesh et shimcha ba'olam kashem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom. Kakatuv al yad neviach v'karazeh el zeh v'yamar.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai tzvaot, melech la'aretz kevodo. Az b'kol ra'ash gadol adir v'chazak mashmi'im kol. Nas'im l'matzarafim l'matam baruch yomeru.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai tzvaot, melech al ha'aretz kevodo. Az b'kol ra'ash gadol adir v'chazak mashmi'im kol. Mitnasim liumat serafim, l'umatam baruch yomeru.
Baruch kavod Adonai minakomo, מקום החמה כנו צופיה ותמלוך ותהייתם לך בציון ברמנו ולם בישון יקדש ותקדש בתוך ירושלים ערך לדור ודור נצח נצחים.
Baruch kavod Adonai mimkomo, mimkomcha malkeinu tofia, v'timloch aleinu ki mechakim anachnu lach, matai timloch b'tzion, b'karov b'yomeinu li'olam v'ohed tishkon, v'titkadash b'toch Yerushalayim ircha, ledor v'ador u'netzach netzachim. Ve'einenu tirena malchutecha kahadavar hamur b'shirei uzecha al yedei David Mashiach tzidkecha Moloch Adonai Yolam Elohai Tzion L'dor Vador Hallelujah. L'dor vador nagid gadlacha u'netzach netzachim kedushatcha nakdish v'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush li'olam va'ed ki melech gadol v'kadosh ata baruch ata Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh. We'll continue with Kaddish Shalem on page 167. Yitgadal v'yitkadosh shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Yirach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechonu v'yamechonu b'chayet chol Beit Yisrael. Bagalav v'yisman kori v'yimeru.
Amen.
Amen. Hey
Hey,
shemei rabbah
hey,
merach
Baruch,
le'olam
Le'olam,
olamei maya.
May Rabba Barach Leolam May.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitala v'yitalal shemei kudusho.
Rehu,
Rehu.
Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tishchata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'yimeru. Amen.
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 Gaber tzlaton uvaton d'chol Yisrael kadam avuhon divishmaya v'yimeru.
Amen.
Yehei shlomo rabba bin shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru.
Amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimeru.
Amen.
Amen.
Yashikoa, Norma.
Thank you.
Enjoy your party.
And Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Yasher Koach.
Yeshakach,
Thank
Shabbat
you.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbos, Norma. Bye.
Shabbat Shalom.
All right, good Shabbos, everybody. Constantly shifting cast of characters here. Okay. All right. All right. So I don't remember an email. Was there anyone who was going to read Torah today, or am I up?
No, I'm doing it.
Great, Miriam. Wonderful. Okay, phenomenal. So I'm going to put it up on the screen in just a moment. But we are on Parashat, or I guess two parashas, right? Nitzavim and Vayelech. We'll read just Nitzavim this week, as we do the triennial. And do I have a volunteer for reading it in English? So Susan, would you read it in English? Great, phenomenal.
Okay.
I'm going to put it up on the screen, my
I have a question. I think that when it's a combined Nitzavim by Yelech, in an oddity, we actually don't quite, in the first year, we don't completely read all of Nitzavim. I could do the whole Nitzavim, but I don't think that's what's called for this year.
Yeah, I'm not sufficiently familiar with the ins and outs of the triennial. Given that it is the triennial, you would imagine that we wouldn't read the entire first parsha. We would only read maybe 2/3 of it, but it's probably dependent more on the number of verses than anything else.
Well, according to the Luach, it is Nitzavim and Vayelech together, but it talks about the reading lasting from chapter 26. I'm sorry, I got the wrong date. From chapter 29, verse 9, all the way to chapter 30, verse 14.
Right, exactly.
That's what I thought.
So we'll see. All right. I'm going to put it up on the screen, but I would like to invite everyone to either join me or to say Amen to the Torah study blessing. Several of us were not here for when Norman said it at the beginning of the service, so we'll do La'asok b'divrei Torah. So Baruch Ata Adonai Einu Melech HaOlam Asher Kitanu
Amen.
Amen.
Great. All right. So up we go. Nitzavim, and I invite our readers to take it away in just 1 second. Just give me one more moment to make the box the right size. Okay. All right. Give me 1 more second. Very good. All right.
Atem nitzavim hayom lifnei Adonai Elohechem Rashetem shiftechem Iknechem shofrechem Kol ish Yisrael Avchem neshechem V'gercha Asher b'kerev machanecha Nehoshei leitzecha Ad shoed meinecha Lo overcha B'ivrit Adonai Elohecha U'valato Adonai Elohecha Oredim Hayom.
And I'm sorry, I forgot to say that the first Aliyah was verses 9 through 11, but you probably figured that out. All right, Susan.
You stand this day, all of you, before the Lord your God, your tribal heads, your elders, and your officials, all the people of Israel, your children, your wives, your husbands, even the stranger within your camp, from woodchopper to water drawer, to enter into the covenant of the Lord your God, which the Lord your God is concluding with you this day with its sanctions.
All right, so the next aliyah is 12 through 14.
למען הקמותך היום לעם, והוא יהיה לך לאלוהים כאשר דיבר לך, וכאשר נשבע לאבותיך, לאברהם ליצחק וליעקב, ולא איתכם לבדכם אנוכי, כורת את הברית הזאת, את העלה הזאת, כי את אשר ישנו עמנו עומד היום לפני אדוני אלוהינו, את אשר איננו עמנו היום.
To the end that God may establish you this day as his people and be your God, as God promised you and as God swore to your fathers, Abraham, and Isaac, and Jacob. I make this covenant with its sanctions, not with you alone, but with those who are standing here with us this day before the Lord our God, and with those who are not with us here this day.
The next aliyah is verses 15 through 28.
כי אתם ידעתם את אשר ישבנו בארץ מצרים, את אשר עברנו בקרב הגויים, אשר עברתם, ותראו את שיקוציהם ואת גילוליהם, עץ ואבן, כסף וזהב, אשר מהם, הן יש בהם איש או אישה, משפחה או שבט, אשר לבבו פונה היום, ועם אדוני אלוהינו, ללכת לעבוד את אלוהי הגויים ההם, פן יש בהם שורש פורה ראש ולענה, והיה בשומעו את דברי ההלכה הזאת, ויתברק בלבבו לאמור, שלום יהיה לי, כי בשירות ליבי אלך, למען צפות הרבה את הצמאה, לא יאבד אדוני סלח לו, כי אז ישן אדוני וקנאתו באיש ההוא, ורצה בו כל העלה הכתובה בספר הזה, ומחה אדוני את שמו מתחת השמיים, והבדילו אדוני לרעה מכל שבטי ישראל, וכל עלות הברית הכתובה בספר התורה הזה. ואמר הדור האחרון בניכם אשר יקומו מאחריהם, והנוכרי אשר יבוא מארץ רחוקה, וראו את מלכות הארץ ההיא, ותחלו אליה, אשר חילה אדוני בה, גופרית במלח שרפה כל ארצה, לא תזרע ולא תצמיח, ולא יעלה בה כל עשב כמהפכה, סדום ועמורה אדמה וצבויים, אשר הבט אדוני באפו בהקמתו. ואמרו כל הגויים, על מה עשה אדוני ככה לארץ הזאת, נכורי האף הגדול הזה. ואמרו על אשר עשו את ברית אדוני אלוהי אבותם, אשר קראתי עמם, והוציאו אותם מארץ מצרים, וילכו ויעבדו אלוהים אחרים וישתחוו להם אלוהים אשר לא ידעום ולא הלך להם ויקרב אדוני בארץ ההיא להביא עליה את כל הקללה הכתובה בספר הזה וישם אדוני מעל אדמתם ועפו המה ובקצף גדול וישליכם אל ארץ אחרת כיום הזה הנזדרות לאדוני אלוהינו והנגלות לנו ולבנינו עד עולם לעשות את כל דברי התורה הזאת.
Before I start, what are those tropes in the last verse with all those dots?
Oh, the dots are something not fully known. When we get to the discussion, we can talk about them.
Okay. Well, you know that we dwelt in the land of Egypt and that we passed through the midst of various other nations. And you have seen the detestable things and the fetishes of wood and stone, silver and gold that they keep. Perchance there is among you some man or woman or some clan or tribe whose heart is even now turning away from the Lord our God to go and worship the gods of those nations. Perchance there is among you a stock sprouting poison weed and wormwood. When such a one hears the words of these sanctions, he may fancy himself immune, thinking, I shall be safe, though I follow my own willful heart, to the utter ruin of moist and dry alike. The Lord will never forgive him. Rather will the Lord's anger and passion rage against that man till every sanction recorded in this book comes down upon him, and the Lord blots out his name from under heaven. The Lord will single them out from all the tribes of Israel for misfortune, in accordance with all the sanctions of the covenant recorded in this book of teaching. And later generations will ask, the children who succeed you, and foreigners who come from distant lands and see the plagues and diseases that the Lord has inflicted upon that land, all its soil devastated by sulfur and salt, beyond sowing and producing, no grass growing in it, just like the upheaval of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah and Zeboim, which the Lord overthrew in his fierce anger. All nations will ask, why did the Lord do thus to this land? Wherefore that awful wrath? They will be told, because they forsook the covenant that the Lord God of their fathers made with them when he freed them from the land of Egypt. They turned to the service of other gods and worshiped them, gods whom they had not experienced and whom he had not allotted to them. So the Lord was incensed at that land and brought upon it all the curses recorded in this book. The Lord uprooted them from their soil in anger, fury, and great wrath, and cast them into another land, as is still the case. Concealed acts concern the Lord our God, but with overt acts, it is for us and our children ever to apply all the provisions of this teaching.
והיה כי יבואו עליך כל הדברים האלה, הברכה והקללה אשר נתתי לפניך, והשבת אל לבבך בכל הגויים אשר הדיחך אדוני אלוהיך שמה ושבתה עד אדוני אלוהיך ושמעת בקולו ככל אשר אנוכי מצווך היום אתה ובניך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ושב אדוני אלוהיך את שבותך ורחמך ושב וקיבצך מכל העמים אשר תפיצך אדוני אלוהיך שמה.
When all these things befall you, the blessing and the curse that I have set before you, and you take them to heart amidst the various nations to which the Lord your God has banished you, and you return to the Lord your God, and you and your children heed God's command with all your heart and soul, just as I enjoin upon you this day. Then the Lord your God will restore your fortunes and take you back in love. God will bring you together again from all the peoples where the Lord your God has scattered you.
All right. The next Aliyah is chapter 30, verses 4 through 6.
אם יהיה נידחך בקצה השמיים משם יקבצך אדוני אלוהיך ומשם ייקחך והביאך אדוני אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר ירשו אבותיך וישתה והיטיבך והרבך מאבותיך ומול אדוני אלוהיך את לבבך ואת לבב זרעך לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך למען חייך.
Even if your outcasts are at the ends of the world, from there the Lord your God will gather you. From there God will fetch you. And the Lord your God will bring you to the land that your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it, and God will make you more prosperous and more numerous than your fathers. Then the Lord your God will open up your heart and the hearts of your offspring to love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul in order that you may live.
All right. The next Aliyah is 7 through 10.
אדוני אלוהיך את כל העלות האלה על אויביך ועל שונאיך אשר רדפוך ואתה תשוב ושמעת בקול אדוני ועשית את כל מצוותיו אשר אנוכי מצווך היום והותירך אדוני אלוהיך בכל מעשה ידיך בפרי בנך ובפרי בהמתך ובפרי אדמתך לטובה כי ישוב אדוני. I'm sorry, I've lost my place.
Lasus alecha in verse 9.
You just start from verse 9 again.
Verse 9.
כי תשמע בקול אדוני אלוהיך לשמור מצוותיו וחוקותיו הכתובה בספר התורה הזה כי תשוב אל אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך.
The Lord your God will inflict all those curses upon the enemies and foes who persecuted you. You, however, will again heed the Lord and obey all his commandments that I enjoin upon you this day. And the Lord your God will grant you abounding prosperity in all your undertakings, in the issue of your womb, the offspring of your cattle, and the produce of your soil. For the Lord will again delight in your well-being, as God did in that of your fathers, since you will be heeding the Lord your God and keeping his commandments and laws that are recorded in this book of the teaching, once you return to the Lord your God with all your heart and soul.
All right, so the final Aliyah is verses 11 through 14.
כי המצווה הזאת אשר אנוכי מצווך היום לא נפלאת היא ממך ולא רחוקה היא לא בשמיים היא לאמור מי יעלה לנו השמיימה ויכחך לנו וישמיענו אותה ונעשנה ולא מעבר לים היא לאמור ויעבור לנו אל עבר הים ויחכה לנו וישמיענו אותה ונעשנה כי קרוב אליך הדבר מאוד ותקראו בלבבך לעשותו.
Surely this instruction which I enjoin upon you this day is not too baffling for you, nor is it beyond reach. It is not in the heavens that you should say, who among us can go up to the heavens and get it for us and impart it to us that we may observe it? Neither is it beyond the sea that you should say, who among us can cross to the other side of the sea and get it for us and impart it to us that we may observe it? No, the thing is very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart to observe it.
Yasher Koach to both of you. Thank you very much for the beautiful reading. And very, very appropriate for the season. And is Norman still here? Okay. So we will now do, we are now going to do the Mishaberach for Cholim. And so what I'll ask you to do is, please, if you would like to name someone for Mishaberach, please unmute yourself so I know to stop, so to speak, at your name. I'll give everyone a second, and what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pull up the I'll pull up the text of the Mishaberach on the screen so that people who don't have a prayer book can see it. All right. I'm going to go around my Zoom room and ask people. Okay, so Petra?
Stefan, Meinert, and Yulaine.
Harriet?
Bonnie Cohen, Sandra Olansky, Sarah Ward, Nancy Shepard, Inga de Vilde, and all those affected by the fires in the West.
Anne?
I was going to say that my friends and son who are in Portland, Oregon, and in Western Oregon and the coast. Horrible.
Thank you. Susan Brand?
Sarah Brand, Elizabeth Brand, Jennifer Chung, Bruce Haggerty, and Adam.
Sherry?
Ruth Batsara.
Sandy?
Ellen Zuniga, David Engel, Elaine Skolnick, Yair Alroy.
Miriam?
Friends and family and all those in need of healing.
Nicole?
Norman Alexander Gibbs and friends who are in the line of fire in California.
I think Norman is not there. Carol?
Betty Gatto and Ruth Bader Ginsburg and all the people in California. I do have friends there.
Marcia?
Dory Swanberg, Francine Grossbard, and all those who are suffering right now. That means the whole earth.
Ruth?
Sora Batkana.
Thank you. All right. So I hope I didn't miss anyone. I'll name Rachel and Tamar, but Miriam. The prayer for healing is on page 173. It's also on the screen in case you need it. Misheberach avotenu mikor beracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Amen. Misheberach Emotenu Mikor Aberacha La'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Okay, so we will now turn back to the Haftarah. Do we have a volunteer for reading the Haftarah today? Great, Jerry Cohen. Okay, good, lovely. All right, so Jerry, we'll start with the blessings. Oh, actually, I can continue. I can actually share the blessings too, but just give me a moment to make sure I'm actually on the Haftarah, and then I'll share the blessings.
Okay, are you doing the blessings?
It's up if you'd like to do them. That'd be good.
Go ahead. I'm still searching the book for them.
Yeah, I can find it. They're on page 175.
175.
175.
What's the Haftorah portion?
Haftarah is the seventh Haftarah of consolation, Isaiah 61:10 through 63:9. And Jerry, you have the blessings?
Yes, I do.
Great. Okay, then I'm not going to bother to share them on the screen. I will just share the Haftarah itself. Okay, good.
Okay, I didn't bring my glasses, so you'll have to help me as I go through it.
That's fine.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, asher bocha bin nevi'im tovim, etzot v'rotza divracheh aneh orim, emet v'emet, Baruch atah Adonai hapokeh b'chol u'moshe avdo
Israel
Amo Emet Tzedek. Are you doing Hebrew first or my reading English first?
English is great.
Okay. Yeah, I see it. I greatly rejoiced in the Lord. My whole being exults in my God, for he has clothed me with garments of triumph, wrapped me in a robe of victory, like a bridegroom adorned with a turban, like a bride bedecked with her finery. For as the earth brings forth her growth, and a garden makes the seed shoot up, so the Lord God will make victory and renown shoot up in the presence of all the nations. For the sake of Zion, I will not be silent. For the sake of Jerusalem, I will not be still, till her victory emerge resplendent, and her triumph like flaming torch. Nations shall see your victory, and every king your majesty, and you shall be called by a new name, which the Lord himself shall bestow. You shall be a glorious crown in the hand of the Lord, and a royal diadem in the palm of your God. I'll continue? Never. Okay. Never more. Oh, sorry. Okay. Stop here. Or keep going.
Save my day.
I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the echo. Hold on 1 second. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Never more shall you be called forsaken, nor shall your land be called desolate. But you shall be called, I delight in her, and your land espoused. For the Lord takes delight in you, and your land shall be espoused. As a youth espouses a maiden, your sons shall espouse you. And as a bridegroom rejoices over his bride, so will your God rejoice over you. Upon your walls, O Jerusalem, I have set watchmen who shall never be silent, by day or by night. O you, the Lord's remembrancers, take no rest and give no rest to him until he establish Jerusalem and make her renowned on earth. The Lord has sworn by his right hand, by his mighty arm, nevermore will I give your new grain to your enemies for food, nor shall foreigners drink the new wine for which you have labored. But those who harvest it shall eat it and give praise to the Lord, and those who gather it shall drink it in my sacred courts. Pass through the gates, clear the road for the people, build up the highway, remove the rocks, raise the ensign over the people. See, the Lord has proclaimed to the end of the earth, announce to fair Zion, your deliverer is coming, see his reward is with him. And they shall be called the holy people, the redeemed of the Lord, and you shall be called sought out, a city not forsaken. Who is coming from Edom? Who is this coming from Edom in crimson garments from Bozrah? Who is this majestic in attire, pressing forward in this great might? It is I who contend victoriously, powerful to give triumph. Why is your clothing so red? Your garments like his who trades grapes. I trod out a vintage alone. Of the peoples, no man was with me. I trod them down in my anger, trampled them in my rage. Their lifeblood bespattered my garments, and all my clothing was stained, for I had planned a day of vengeance, and my year of redemption arrived. Then I looked, but there was none to help. I stared, but there was none to aid. So my own arm wrought this triumph, and my own rage was my aid. Of trampled... just finding my place here.
Verse 6.
Yes, 6, I see it. I trampled peoples in my anger. I made them drunk in my rage, and I hurled their glory to the ground. I will recount the kind acts of the Lord, the praises of the Lord, for all that the Lord has wrought for us, the vast bounty to the house of Israel, that he bestowed upon them according to his mercy and his great kindness. He thought, surely they are my people, children who will not play false. So he was their deliverer. In all their troubles, he was troubled, and the angel of his presence delivered them. In his love and pity, he himself redeemed them, raised them and exalted them all the days of old.
All right, so the blessings for after the Haftarah are on page 175. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzor kol olamim, tzadik b'chol hadorot. האל הנאמן האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת בצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבריך עד מדבריך, אחור לא ישוב ריקם, כי אל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הנאמן בכל דבריו. רחם על ציון כי היא בית חיינו, ולעלו את נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני, משמח ציון בבניה. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו, באליהו הנביא עבדך, ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך. במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו, על כיסאו לא ישב זר. ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא נכפה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מגן דוד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל נביאים, ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ותפארת. על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד. בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת. Okay, thank you, Jerry.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to stop the share there, and we can turn now to a conversation about the Torah or about the Haftarah, very in its own way, very provocative. So feel free to. The floor is open. Miriam, actually, Susan Brand had the question about the
about the dots. And it's interesting because they are not trope. They have nothing to do with how you chant it. And unlike the trope marks, which as you, but not everybody here may know, the trope marks and the vowels don't appear in the Torah scroll itself, but these dots do. And they're rare. They're in maybe a half a dozen places. And they're discussed in the Talmud without any consensus as to what they mean. But if I remember, and it's been a long time since I looked at this, in at least some other places where they are, there's a suggestion that the person speaking those words may not mean what it appears to mean on the surface. And beyond that, I'm afraid I don't really remember. I don't know why they're on this particular verse, other than perhaps, and this is not the Talmudic explanation, to emphasize it in some way beyond the others there. And that's not usually true in Torah. We're usually told, not to try to figure out that one verse or one mitzvah is any more significant than the next.
I was reading Robert Alter's translation, and he points that out, what you just said. He said that these later medieval scholars who put together the Masoretic text, well, for example, when Esau and Jacob come together finally, and Esau kisses him, there are dots above that word, and he kissed him, suggesting that these medieval exegetes or scribes questioned Esau's motives. So there is some sense that maybe there is some concern about what's in this particular verse. Is it okay if I can just add a few points that I wanted to say about the Torah portion at this point? Or do you want to continue talking about the dots?
Jim, but I think it might be interesting to, before we have a more general conversation, to just focus on this verse a little bit longer, and I'll pull it back up on the screen and to think, why. There are some explanations in the Eitz Chaim as to why it's starred, so to speak.
I'm gonna go get my Rashi then. See if he says it.
But I think this is a very interesting verse just on its own merits. So let's see if I can find it.
Page 1168.
Thanks.
Well, there's one, yeah. Although I thought there was more somewhere else.
The 1168, the explanation in Eitz Chaim goes on to the next page. But I think there's such an interesting, concealed acts concern the Lord our God, but with overt acts, it is for us and our children ever to apply all the provisions of this teaching. So actually it says 15 places in the Bible there are these dots over letters. More spots than I would have imagined, but still obviously very rare. But the very interesting, right? That they're singling out lanu ul vanenu, right? They are our children, for us and our children, and right above it, right, is another interesting scribal thing where there's a large lamed. Vayash lichem, cast them into another land. So two odd scribal things right in a row. So again, just to allow people to think about it, what might be some reasons that we would look at this particular verse would be the one that is emphasized.
According to Rashi, the dots are there to indicate that even for things that are revealed, God does not punish the many, did not, until after they had crossed the Jordan and taken the oaths on Mount Gerizim and on Mount Ebal, and became responsible for each other.
So until they've had their bar bat mitzvah, they're not liable for their sins.
And I and many members of the Minyan chose this one as their bar bat mitzvah portion.
Yeah, and I mean, part of it for me, I think, is that this, lanu ulvanenu, right? It's that that this is that we're always enjoined to think about our children, and by extension our children's children, right? That this it's on us, right, to be the source of the tradition for our.
And I'm afraid I left out part of what Rashi is saying. He's saying it's to emphasize that the mitzvot are communal.
Yeah.
And the responsibility of one Jew for another.
This is something that Alter also mentioned, citing the traditional texts, that the traditional view of this verse is that if there are concealed acts, only God knows about them, and God is going to requite justice for them. But if those acts that are overt, it's expected of everybody in the community to act to address them.
Right, which is a kind of what Miriam is saying, right? That as a community, right, we need to help one another take our tradition seriously and behave in a way that will be helpful to the community and not antisocial.
You could also, on the face of it,
obviously don't what goes on. That was one of the explanations in the Eitz Chaim, which is that we don't know people's motivations, and so we shouldn't necessarily act on what we think someone's motivation is. Right? We should focus on what we can see.
Could I interject something here, just for a second, or no?
Please.
Given where our attention is the rest of the week, on the days of the week, this idea has very interesting political implications, and I wonder, without getting into those details, what it suggests about acts which begin as secret, but then become revealed to us. Do our responsibilities then change?
I think that's right. I mean, I think, and I think when people's motivation becomes revealed, right? Either because they talk to a prominent journalist and somehow don't expect that it's going to get out, or in some other way, right? Then that is actually information that becomes public, and I think is then it does have to be taken into account. Sure. Right, Sherry, you want to say that?
Well, not to deflate the discussion, but I went to a talk at Harvard in the Bible discussion group, and it was a while ago, so I can't remember exactly, but it's my impression that they said that it was about how the Masoretic text was put together, and that there were communities, there were many scrolls within the communities, and when they put it together, there were all these scribal marks, and a lot of them made their way into the Masoretic text, but they didn't really know what their significance was.
Right. I think that's absolutely right, and I think that that's one of the reasons why, we as Jews are very good at this. But there's got to be something we can get somehow out of this.
Well, not necessarily. It may just be a marking from the past that it's kind of interesting to try to interpret, but that we really can't know. It's among the unknown things that that we can't know what they're doing there. And it's interesting to think of reasons, but
there's absolutely
we can't assume that even the people who put in the dots clearly knew what they were doing.
Go ahead, Miriam.
On the face of the verse, you could also read it to be teaching that there really are things in this world that we can never understand, and that we have to accept that and just operate on the basis of that which has been revealed, that which we know is the right thing to do in our lives, and try not to dwell on the things that are just inexplicable or too arcane, too mysterious, or beyond human understanding.
Great. All right. So, Jim, I think you wanted to say some.
Yeah, I wanted to call attention to a few other things that are in today's portion that I think are worth noting. First of all, in the ancient Near East, covenants like the one in the Torah were made between a vassal, a leader of a group of people, and a higher king. And here we have the idea that the covenant is being made with everybody, and that it's presented in such a way on Mount Eval and Mount Gerizim, and one mountain with the blessings is green, and the other mountain is bare with the curses in front of even the entire community up to the wood hewers and the water carriers, is really a remarkable statement. So that's number one.
And the women.
And the women.
It's unusual in referring to the women being involved.
Everybody, and that certainly includes the women. And the second point I wanted to make is that this portion introduces the idea of teshuvah, which is exceptionally important for us, especially at this time of year. And Nechama Leibowitz, and she's quoting, I'm sure, traditional commentators, talks about how this passage has a dialogue, an interaction that's going on between God and the people. God punishes the people for their misdeeds, but then the people return, it says, to God. And when they return, God responds to them and he restores their fortunes. And also going beyond what was in previous passages, such as the one in the Shema, where we're told that we need to put fringes on our garments to remind us, it talks about circumcising our heart, adding some kind of new component to our being that will make us be able to be more responsive and more loyal and more dedicated to God. So I think that's pretty amazing. And I know as a therapist who grappling with issues of people's ability to change in their behavior, the ability to take change and to make it last, to actually persist in it, and to make change at all in one's life is an enormous challenge. And here we have this concept of teshuvah as a central part, and the concept of a dialogic interaction between God and the people as presented as the ways in which this will happen.
Thank you. Other comments? Sherry, you unmuted yourself. You want to say something?
Yeah, well, what stood out for me was the emphasis on the word ahava, and love. And, it's just all, it's a difficult, when we think of love, we think of romantic love. And so what is the love of God? And it just strikes me as to be so, peculiar that that's what God wants. He wants love. It's not all about, it in other places, and it's complicated, and it's about moral, but it's not worship. It's love. And what does that mean to love God?
It's about relationship, right?
Yeah, that's what he wants. That's the kind of relationship it is, right?
It's, and so it's, obviously obedience and is something, right? But it's really about the relationship, and it is a love relationship. And every week, on Friday night, when I can't say we, because most of this group doesn't join me for Friday nights, but those who do, we always start with nefesh, talking about God as the lover of my soul, and that sort of relationship, that aching relationship with God, wanting God as part of our lives. And is that what the Torah is talking about? I'm not sure that it's intended for. Other thoughts? Go ahead, Michael.
Speaking of what we read today, both the Torah portion and the Haftorah, I was struck because I'm responsible for the Haftorah, the Isaiah Haftorah on Yom Kippur, about how connected these two passages were to each other, and which is not unusual, of course, between the Torah and the Haftorah, but then also to the great Isaiah that we read on Yom Kippur, with the robe as a sort of central metaphor, and the idea that we have to make the road, and we have to clear the obstacles from it. In the Haftorah, the destination is not explicated from the Haftorah that we say at Yom Kippur, and in a way I prefer that, because it can something to meditate about. But when I read this Torah portion together with the Haftorah, the destination seems clear. It's the road of return, the road of returning to God, whatever that means. And somebody is taking it back. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Or maybe they're moving around.
Go ahead, Miriam.
Well, just to follow up on Sherry's comment about it being a love relationship, we have in the Haftarah the metaphor of the bride and groom, and we have the rationale of the rabbis for putting the Song of Songs into the canon, that it is a love relationship, a passionate relationship at its best.
No, I absolutely
get there, but that's the goal.
Yeah, right. And the question that always is always in my mind when I think about this question is where does it turn into that sort of passionate, almost a marriage, or explicitly a marriage, as opposed to what is more typical in the ancient Near East, where the word love really means obedience, right? And where does that shift come, right? Where does that because so much of what we sort of think of as rabbinic Judaism, right, comes not so much from the Torah as from the prophets. And so I think, like, the emphasis on marital love as an image for Shabbat, right? That is so much of what the Kabbalistic understanding of Shabbat, that starts in exactly what you're talking about, Miriam, right? This sort of the beginning. Is it the beginning of this Haftarah? Not sure if it's exactly the beginning, but it's close to the beginning, where it says, excuse me one second while I find it. Yeah, sos asis badonai, right? I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. That I was blessed to do a wedding just last week and was reminded that one of the Sheva brachot begins tos tasis, right? You shall surely rejoice, right? And so it seems not unlikely, right, that there's some sort of connection here. All right, so Marty, go ahead.
No, I didn't have my hand up.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, good. Okay.
Thanks.
Ann did. Ann, are you?
I'm going to Oregon.
Great. Have a good time in Oregon.
Oh, be well and safe.
Yeah.
I'm going to Zoom for Torah study, so I'll have a report. I have another. It's awful. It's terrible out here.
I have friends there too.
So yeah, and be well. And so before you leave, just a reminder: 7:30 we'll do Havdalah, and then 8 o'clock or after Havdalah we'll do the sleep.
Okay, thank you.
Please feel free to join. All right, so thank you, everybody. I just wanted to point out very quickly just that one of my favorite verses, which was right at the end of what we read today. Right, surely this instruction which I enjoin upon you this day is not too baffling, nor is it beyond reach. It is not an
yes.
Right, that you should say, who among us can go up to the heavens and get it for us and impart it to us, that we may observe. Neither is it beyond the sea, that you should say, who among us can cross to the other side of the sea and get it for us and impart it to us. No, the thing is very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart to observe it, right? So this is, Torah is not rocket science. It's truly accessible to everyone who tries to engage with it in some sort of a serious way. So, which is again very important. I think it's not completely essential that this is what, if I remember correctly, this portions of what is in this what we read today is for the Reform movement is what they read on the afternoon of Yom Kippur for the Torah reading, if I have it right. So because it does feel very appropriate. All right, so I think we'll move now. Thank you, everyone, for all of your comments and contributions to the discussion. We will now turn to our closing prayers, and I will have. I can find it. Okay. All right, page 199. Yismechu v'malchutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Mekadosh Shvi Shabbat Kulam Yismehu V'tanegu B'duvecha Shabbat Yismehu V'malchutecha Shomrei 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 Shabbat V'kor Eihoneg Shabbat Yismehu V'malchutecha Shomrei 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 Shabbat V'kor Eihoneg Shabbat V'shvi Ratzita bo V'kidashto Shabbat V'chemdad Yamim Oto Karata Shabbat Yismechu V'malchutecha Shomrei 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 Shabbat V'kor Eihoneg Shabbat Yismechu V'malchutecha Shomrei 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 Shabbat V'kor Eihoneg Shabbat Zecher L'maaseh Bereshit Shabbat Zecher L'maaseh Bereshit Shabbat. So page 201. Sim shalom tova uvracha ba'olam sim shalom tova uvracha chen v'chesed b'rachamim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael amecha b'rachenu avinu kulanu ke'echad be'or panecha hay sim shalom tova uvracha ba'olam sim sim shalom tova uveracha ki ba'or panecha natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu Torah chaim v'yavad chesed u'tzedakah uvracha v'rachamim v'chaim v'shalom sim shalom tova uvracha ba'olam sim shalom tova uvracha v'tov b'necha levarech et amecha Yisrael v'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך sim shalom tova uvracha ba'olam sim shalom tova uvracha. All right, so we will turn to page 204. En Keloheinu, en Kadonehinu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kemoshienu, non como vuestro Dios, non como vuestro Señor, non como vuestro Rey, non como vuestro Salvador. Mi Keloheinu, mi Kadonehinu, mi Kemalkeinu, mi Kemoshienu, ken como vuestro Dios, ken como vuestro Señor, ken como vuestro Rey, ken como vuestro Salvador. No del Eloheinu, no del Adoneinu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu, lo haremos nuestro Dios, lo haremos nuestro Señor, lo haremos nuestro Rey, lo haremos nuestro Salvador. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adoneinu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, bendito nuestro Dios, bendito nuestro Señor, bendito nuestro Rey, bendito nuestro Salvador. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adoneinu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, tu el nuestro Dios, tu el nuestro Señor, tu el nuestro Rey, tu el nuestro Salvador. I invite you to rise as you are able for the Eleno on page 205. Alehin l'shabeach adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא וראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלאכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו, וגובה מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אהוד, אמת מלכנו ופסולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום וישיבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינו. Page 206. Al kenech v'lecha Adonai Eloheinu lirot me'yirat tiferet u'zech. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני מלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. All right, so I will invite people to unmute themselves if they would like to share the name of someone that they are remembering for a yahrzeit. The only person I see is Sandy. So go ahead.
Yeah, I unmuted, but I don't have anyone to, no yahrzeit.
Sounds good. All right, so I will just repeat what I said last night. Yesterday obviously was September 11th, and I always remember my friend and college classmate Fred Rimley, who was on one of the planes from Boston, and was obviously killed along with so many other people in that terrible crime. And so I remember him and all of those people who died in that terrorist attack. So Kaddish Yatom, page 202, 207. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Amen.
Yalma Divra Chirte, Yamlich Malchute, Vayechon Uvimechon, Chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ha'agala Uvizman Kariv, Amen.
Amen.
Yehi Shemei.
Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Vipa'ar, Vitrumam, Vitnase, Vitadar, Vitalev, Vitalal, Kuch,
Berichu.
Bichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Ushbechata v'nechemata, V'amiran bi'alama v'imromen.
Amen.
Yesh lamaraba minch, Chaim alim, Kol Yisrael v'imromen.
Amen.
Shalom b'imromav, Uya shalom, Yisrael v'imromen.
Amen.
All right, so today is, so announcements.
Well, you mentioned Slichot tonight, and tomorrow we have a Shmooze and Learn following Mariv services at 7. At 7:30, Professor Jacob Meskin is going to meet with us and talk about Jewish spirituality. Where does it come from, and where is it? What are its sources, and why is it important today to so many people? And this is, in a sense, a taste of the Maya class that he's going to be teaching for 10 alternate Sundays, starting in the middle of October, through the auspices of the Hebrew College. So it's kind of an interesting opportunity to kind of check that out. So that is tomorrow. The service is at 7, and the Shmooze and Learn with Jacob Meskin at 7:30. And we also have our book group happening. I think that's going to be next to the beginning of October. I forget the date. But the book is called Mr. Mani by Aleph Bet Yehoshua. And it's a very interesting novel. So I suggest that you might be interested in checking it out.
Any other?
I have a question and announcement. Am I unmuted? This is Harriet.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can. This is actually a question about an announcement I'd like to have. I was glad to hear Mikkel say that this is about the high holidays. I'm glad we have a time schedule, but I wonder if someone could announce or send out an announcement about service leaders and so forth, because I'm going to be phoning some people who don't come on Shabbat, but I think would like to come for the high holidays. I'm glad that Mikkel's going to do the Yom Kippur reading, the Haftorah, and I know Lee Ospitz is going to give a talk, but who has the lineup of is Randy going to do something? Is Rachel Guberman going to do something? How can we find out who's leading and who's speaking, which services?
Not everything has been completely nailed down, but Ruth is going to be giving the drash on Yom Kippur afternoon, which is great. Very, very exciting. Sort of the usual cast of characters for Rachel is at this point not davening because Yom Kippur was when she was going to, but that's a Monday and she has to be with her child. So that's not really conducive to davening. Small kids and even small dogs are not always
Right.
So we'll see. Go ahead, Ruth.
Oh, Jim, I just wanted to say it's not entirely a drash, it's a discussion.
Well, that's what it always is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk for an hour.
As you've seen from this, even on Shabbat, right? It's this is a minion that's full of things to say. So I think.
Right.
Oh no problem. I'm just saying.
The discussion is going to be on the book of Jonah, and at 4:00, this is in addition to the schedule, on Yom Kippur, there will be a reading of the book of Jonah. And I also want to direct people's attention to the second day of Rosh Hashanah. That's when we're going to be blowing the shofar. And on the afternoon, we're going to again blow the shofar and do tashlich in a real outdoor physical place, Christian Herder Park on a Soldiers Field Road at 4:00 on Sunday, the second day of Rosh Hashanah.
I just wanted to make a pitch for that Maya class. The Maya selected. Jacob Meskin is a wonderful teacher. We've studied with him before. And Worship and Study is the host for this class. So I really want to encourage people to look into it. The registration is online. It'll be a great semester. It's every other week. And it'll be fascinating material.
On Zoom.
All right.
I just wanted to ask, it's Marcia, I just wanted to ask about the time for Slichot tonight. What time does it start?
7:30 will be Havdalah, and then after Havdalah we will revert to Slichot.
Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, great. So we will conclude our service today with Psalm 27, which is found on page 113 in your prayer books. It's also on the screen if you were to look at it there. And we will we'll daven it, and then we will sing Achat Sha'alti together. Preferably behind your mute. David Adonai ori v'yish'i mimi ira, Adonai ma'oz chayai mimi evchad. האמנתי לראות בטוב אדוני בארץ חיים. קווה אל אדוני חזק פיעמי צדך וקווה אל אדוני. One thing I ask of Adonai, this is what I seek, to dwell in the house of God all the days of my life, to behold God's peacefulness and to pray in God's sanctuary. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai ota avakesh. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai ota avakesh. Shivti b'vet Adonai kol yemei chayai lachazot b'noam Adonai ulvaker b'cheichalo lachazot b'noam Adonai uvaker b'eichalo. So Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, everybody. Great to be together. Thanks everyone for being here. To everyone who contributed to the discussion, to Norman for Pasuki de Zimmer, to Norma for Shachrit, and to Miriam and Susan for the Torah reading, and Jerry for reading that. Seeing anyone tonight who is up for Slichot, and we will get into our high holiday mode. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
All right. You have to go to the right screen.